Hello, my friends. Good morning to those of you who are listening to this or watching this live. My name is Jim Gale, and it is my pleasure to be here on the Braveheart Nation channel. And I've got a lot to share today. It's been an incredible month. The first thing that I want to share, I want to talk about, is the topic of death. So, about 2 weeks ago, I was holding my mom's hand while she ascended. And I was very present. I was conscious. I was aware. I wasn't in fear. I was kind of in awe. And it was an amazing experience. I've done enough meditation and enough studying of human consciousness and of my own consciousness to know for certain that there is no such thing as death in the way that a lot of people think about death. And how do I know what a lot of people think about death? Well, for the last 2 weeks, I have heard the words, "I'm so sorry," definitely hundreds of times. And because my mom had a lot of friends, and we have a lot of friends, and we know a lot of people, talk to a lot of people. I mean, just on her Facebook thing alone, there was like 540 comments, and many of them started with, "I'm so sorry." And when I talk with some of these amazing folks, these great people that have been in our family and friends for a long time, they really are very sorry. They're very sad. And I'm curious about that. You know, I've been studying what's going on in the world now in depth for a long time. And I think one of the primary fundamental deceptions of our time is that there is no God or there is no spirit, that this is just a random circumstance or set of events that puts us on this planet at this time. And, well, that idea, that belief system leads to what we have in our world today. We have a world where people are putting faith in government. People are putting faith in dollars, right? People are putting faith in corporations, right? There's a reason that it's corporation or corporation. And there's a reason that it's the debt system, right? Debt and death are the same thing. There's a reason that the word governmente literally means control the mind. Govern is to manage, control, or steer, and mente is mind. Now, if you go online, you'll see that they're already manipulating some of these words and changing the definitions, just as Orwell wrote about back in 1947 for a book he published in 1948. Orwell was an insider, and he talked about what was to come when he wrote the book 1984. The people who control the narrative, the governmente, the mind control, and by the way, this is not a hypothetical or a theory. This is a fact. Well, it's closer to a theory than a hypothetical, that's for sure, a hypothesis. Back over 100 years ago, the powers that be, the families that still control the world and have for a long, long, long time, commissioned a study to study the most influential newspapers and radio shows of the time. This is over 100 years ago. And they bought them all. They control the whole thing. So back to the death thing. My friends, we are spirit. This is a temporary situation. This James Patrick Gale, my name, it's a temporary kind of blip in the mind of God somehow, right? I'm not pretending to fully comprehend the mind of God, because the mind of God is infinite. Everything that can be known is in the mind of God. So I would just like to share with you, because there's a lot of death going on right now, more in a short amount of time than, well, more than there should be, more than there needs to be. And it's not by accident either. So I just like to invite you to elevate the understanding of what death is. Death is simply a transition out of this limited physical body back into source. And another thing is coming to me right now that I'll share with you. There are so many amazing things happening right now around us. First, I'll give you a quick tour. I'm sitting here under the shade of a baby mulberry tree, right? A little bit of shade. And this tree was planted about 2 years ago. In fact, there was nothing where I'm sitting 2 years ago but sand. It was just flat, dead, short of Florida sugar sand. And now I'm surrounded by a food forest with over 240 different species of edible and medicinal plants. It's paradise. And everybody, this is the answer, by the way, to all the world's biggest problems. When we take out the poisons and we steward our land wisely, then we solve mass extinction and deforestation and cancer and diabetes and heart disease. We end hunger and we end tyranny. This is how we do it. So this is the idea whose time has come, stronger than all the armies of the world. And what do the people who write the narrative want you to believe? Well, they don't want you to be a brave heart, because if you're brave and aware of what's happening, you would say no. Peaceful non-compliance or civil disobedience. Gandhi wasn't opposed to war. He simply knew that based on what his goals were, war was not the best way to achieve his goals. And that's the truth of the matter. When we demonstrate peace and abundance and service and love and joy, when we rise out of this narrative of death and of fear and of scarcity, we change the world. It's that simple. It does take mass adoption. Now, there's a theory out there that it only takes 3%. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that it doesn't take a majority. It takes a small group of dedicated people to help shine a light on the truth of the matter, on what can be done. And my friends, this political season is designed to be a polarizing event. This whole campaign is designed to polarize, to get people to hate each other, to get people to argue and fight. My friends, let's look at the most important factors of our world today. And I want to ask you, does your candidate speak to these? Right? Does your candidate speak to the war narrative in such a way that would end the war narrative? Do they speak about peace and how to achieve it? No, they don't. Not unless it's a candidate I don't know about. What about the use of poisons in our landscapes and everywhere? Did your candidate speak to the use of poisons and have a plan to stop the use of poisons in our air, our water, our soils, our hearts, our minds? And fear is the ultimate poison. Or does your candidate talk about the solutions to all of the world's biggest problems? Well, that's how I can tell if this is real or not. What's coming over the rest of this year, well, it's going to be very interesting. And to the degree that we become aware and brave and live with the energy, the frequency, the vibration of faith and courage, and take steps to be self-reliant, to those degrees, we will thrive or we will suffer. There are already a lot of people that are transitioning out of this body because they've been deceived to ingesting and using poisonous chemicals, synthetics that are not natural, right? God, nature, which is the same thing, did not mess up, right? The Garden of Eden is not a utopic fantasy. It's not some type of crazy idea. It's how we are meant to live, my friends. The Garden of Eden is what it's all about, is the win of the game. Look at these hacotes. Jamaican cherries and mulberries. And 2 years ago was sand. And now it's paradise. So I'm not a fan of politicians or politics, but I'm also aware that the structures exist. The infrastructure exists to change our world in a very, very short amount of time. If all we did was stop the use of poisons, and to shine a light on how insidious and wicked this is, well, let's take one of the most well-known poisons, glyphosate, sold by Monsanto and Bayer, Roundup. Well, this company, Monsanto, and you can look this up. If you look up class action lawsuits against the use of Roundup and glyphosate, and look up Monsanto and Bayer, look up the class action lawsuits. They've paid, I believe, in just recently, and I've heard it's more than this now, but just look this up. Does it say that they've paid over $11 billion in fines? $11 billion in class action lawsuits. Well, wait a minute. If that was one settlement, and then they took the products off the shelves, then there would be some hope for these spreaders of poisons. But that's not what happened. That was over multiple settlements. And the corporation that paid out these massive fines, they had a stipulation in their contract before payout. And in a way, this is, well, there are multiple people responsible for signing this agreement. The plaintiffs, the attorneys, and the corporation. Because what they did was they made the agreement that as long as the product can stay on the shelves, they'll pay the fines. Like, step back from that one thing for a second. Wait a minute. It's now been proven in multiple courts that this product causes pain and suffering to us as individuals, to our soil, to our world, to life in general. They've paid these fines. Some of them, I believe, and you could check this out yourself, are of a criminal nature. As long as they can keep the product on the shelf. Oh, wait a minute. That is radically unethical. It's criminal. So that's all you need to know. If these corporations are doing this, and please also, there's one more, if you want to look up Bayer. A while back, there was some blood that was tainted. And it was, I believe, owned by Bear. They had a blood drive, and they were selling blood for, blood. They had blood donors, and they had some blood that caused illness and death. Well, in the United States, they were under some kind of court order to stop selling that blood. So they said, okay, we're not under a court order to not sell this blood in Europe, though. So we'll just sell it in Europe. My friends, all of these corporations, all the big ones, and you can look this up yourself, they are all owned and controlled by an entity called BlackRock. There's a concept, by their deeds you shall know them, or by their fruits you shall know them. Well, BlackRock is not only the name, it is by their actions, their intention. And this is, again, public knowledge. So I'm going to just share this with you, and then you put it together however you want. But BlackRock, the investment arm of BlackRock, which is what makes its power, which is why State Street and Vanguard and Berkshire Hathaway and all the biggest corporations in the world collaborate with BlackRock and use their computer named Aladdin to make their financial bets. If you look at Fox and CNN and all the biggest corporations that you can name, BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard and these corporations are, at least, they're the biggest owners. Together, they control everything. They control the fiat dollar economy. They control the whole thing. It's a scam. The fiat dollar is collapsing by design. And here's what's coming next. It's called the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. Do you trust the central bank? I don't either. Are you going to give your money through your pensions and your IRAs and your 401ks? Are you going to put your fiat into a system that is interestingly similar to what was described thousands of years ago in the book of Revelation? And my friends, I'm not a biblical scholar by any means. In fact, I've never even read the whole book through and through from from the beginning to the end. But I have studied enough of it to know that there's something biblical going on. And this does not take away from any of the other spiritual foundations or religions, right? I've studied quite a few, and I find beauty and hardship in all of them. I find the desire to do good as the foundation for all of them. People who are willing to die for their country or their belief systems are willing to die because they love something or somebody. They love an idea so much they're willing to die for it. Now, does this excuse somebody who's doing harm? No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm simply saying that when we recognize the why and we start demonstrating and showing a better way, it will inspire and empower the people who are doing harm. It will help elevate their awareness, just like Gandhi's when he said civil disobedience is the way, and Martin Luther King's. In fact, one of the most profound concepts that I've kind of adopted in the last few months is Martin Luther King's advice. Those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. Well, those who love war are the corporations that want to mind control and control every action that you have. Right? So there's some interesting stuff going on, and I'll layer it in. Why not? I'm going to get real deep on this, and I'm not telling you how it is. I'm sharing with you some things that you can look up and you determine how yourself what's going on, right? Because I'm not pretending I know. I've been wrong a lot. I am ignorant in infinite ways. I've been wrong a lot about timing and about a lot of stuff. But there's a couple things I know. The first thing that I want to share is taking the poisons out and turning your landscape into an edible landscape is a no-brainer. It's the best investment that I've ever made in my life. Every single fruit tree and berry bush and turmeric and ginger and medicinal plant and everything around here has went up in value by probably 5 to 10x in 2 years. So we are composting the fiat. We are taking that system that is in rapid decay and dying, and we are turning it into true wealth and abundance. This, mimicking and working with God's system, nature, is true wealth. The false god of money has corrupted the minds and spirits of a lot of people. So why is it that this little device that I'm holding in my hand has an apple with a bite out of it? What does that signify? And why were the first Apple computers sold, right? The first mass sale. You can look this up. Ask your little computer, what were the first Apple computers sold for? And the answer will come $666. Gosh, why would they pick that number? Right? Well, this little device here, they want to shrink it down and put it in a chip. And they want to put it in your hand or your forehead or your head. And with that, the convenience is that you can buy or sell goods. Maybe you can speak every language. Maybe you are now tied with artificial intelligence. What's the opposite of artificial intelligence? Well, it's God's intelligence, nature's intelligence. My friends, AI can't do this. AI can't grow a fruit tree. AI maybe can plant a fruit tree. AI can maybe plant a garden. A robot can maybe harvest the fruit. Great. Go harvest some fruit, robot. But you can't grow the fruit. Right? So you look at Apple and Microsoft, these mega corporations. Well, Apple, used the 666 number for its sale of the little chip with an apple with a bite out of it, the tree of knowledge that has all the knowledge of good and evil right here in my hand. Excuse me. And then, so what does Microsoft do? They take out a patent, and you can look this up in 2020, and it has to do with human bodily activity and cryptocurrency data. Oh, wait a minute. Human bodily activity and cryptocurrency data. What's that all about? Well, look it up. Its patent number is 2020 6666 or 666. Yeah, it's 060606. Zeros are nothing. So wait a minute. You've now got the tree of knowledge of good and evil with a bite out of it, which is 666. You've got the patent from Microsoft, which wants to turn us into some kind of battery. And now you've got in Congress, I don't think this passed. I don't know. You could do your own research on this. But they have a bill that was proposed back in, I think it was 2020 or 21. And it was testing, reaching, and contacting everyone. The Trace Bill. Look it up. I think it's House Resolution 116th Congress, HR, House Resolution 6666. And what is that? Testing, reaching, and contacting everyone. That, my friends, is the law to enforce the patent of the mark of the beast. You cannot buy or sell goods. It will affect everybody, young and old, rich and poor. And by the way, if you know anybody who's wealthy, share this tidbit with them, because a lot of the wealthy think that they can hide from what's to come, but they are waking up fast. This mark of the beast is not only going to affect the poor. Yes, it'll affect the poor first, but over time, the meek shall inherit the earth. Who are the meek? Well, not weak. Meek and weak might rhyme, but they have very different meanings. The meek are the powerful who choose to use their power wisely. They are the stewards of our land and our communities. I consider myself meek now, simply because I've become aware that any force and violence and fear and scarcity and this desire to control, that's an illusion. And it's a trauma. It's a lack of faith. And to give you a kind of a little detail what that means, well, I have not asked for permission to build our lifetime family home, our kin's domain, our off-grid homestead. I did not ask for permission to build 11 houses that are around us. Instead, look at these butterflies. Isn't that beautiful? There was nothing here 2 years ago but sand. And now it's an ecosystem that supports so much life. It's absolutely delicious too. And look at it. So you can count the seeds in a cherry, but you cannot count the cherries in a single seed. This is God's design. This seed, planted properly, can turn into an infinite amount, an exponential amount of cherries over time. That's the power of nature, of God's design. So how do we overcome? Oh yeah, I was saying too, I did not ask for permission to build these houses. And about a few months back, I got a call from my partner on the land here, and he said, Jim, there's a guy with a badge on from the county asking about permits. I said, oh, that's interesting. And you know what? My heart started beating. I got a tinge of fear because I get what the possible repercussions of this are. And it's important to me. I love living here. But I will not, under threat of force and violence, comply with any form of insanity. So I took a few deep breaths. Breath is spirit. I invited the spirit in, and I stood with faith and courage. I grabbed my little camera here, and I walked up to this fella. And I first let him know, I said, my name is Jim Gale, and he introduced himself. And I said, this conversation is being recorded so we don't misconstrue any words that are being said. And then I asked him, how did you get permission to come on our property? Implied consent is not granted, and it's posted, and it cites case law. Now, it really shouldn't have to cite any case law because there is one law of this land. Do no harm. Do not use force and violence against another. So that is God's law that I stand with. And defense is another story. But anyway, he said, I will leave if you want me to. And I said, well, he sounded like kind of a nice guy. I said, well, let's wait a sec on that. I'd like to first share with you what we're doing and why we will not comply with government. because the government will allow us like we're slaves to poison this land. They'll allow us to cut all these trees. They'll allow us to destroy this natural environment. And there's proof of that all over the place. And all these developments around, these cookie cutter developments, they are biological deserts. There's no, and that's not even fair to deserts, right? Because deserts have more biodiversity than most of these communities that use poisons on a regular basis. I said, we will not do that. I'm here to steward this land. I'm here to protect this land. We will be happy to show you how to do it. We will be happy to lead you and guide you in the proper use of resources. But we will not do it your way. Well, after about 20 minutes of sharing with this fella and showing him, walking him around this beautiful place, this 2-year-old baby food forest that produces way more food than our family needs right now. I'm like, and over time, as this food forest becomes mature, this food forest can literally feed the community, then it can feed the county, then it can feed the state, then it can feed the world. Like literally the exponential abundance of this type of thing, it has no limits to it. It takes time, of course, but it can do all of that and more. So he actually got tears in his eyes and he said, I will never bother you again. I am a big supporter and I want to find ways to work with you and collaborate with you, because the message that we are giving, no logical, ethical person can argue this message, especially when they're standing in the food forest. We have no poisons on this land, and it's absolutely thriving, and it supports so many bees. We've got beehives over here. We got like 40 pounds of honey now. I don't know anything about bees other than they know about themselves. We put the boxes up. We collect the honey like once every 9 months or so. And the honey's amazing. And it's created right here. And the bees pollinate the plants, which help them get fertile so they have more fruits. It's such an incredible natural system. And anyway, so that's that. That's what's going on. There's a lot going on, and I don't pretend to know a lot of the details of it other than I am here because there's no death, standing in faith and courage and listening. I do a lot of breathing, a lot of sitting out here in nature and just listening. And not only listening on the external level to the birds and the butterflies and the awesome sounds all around me, but also listening with the heart, listening for the guidance that comes. You know, where does a good idea come from? Well, that's the magic. That's God. An idea that has never entered your awareness. An idea that when you get this idea, you feel excited and empowered. Where does that come from? How could that be random? Yeah, no. There's so many things happening right now, my friends. We are going to change the world. To the degree that we become self-reliant in our hearts and our minds, and we get rid of the fear of our lives, we stand with complete faith and courage that we are more than this. To the degree that we then take steps to becoming self-reliant. Harvest your own water, harvest your own energy, harvest your own food. And if you live in a place where you can't do that, then maybe you want to make a goal to live in a place where you can. If you only see blockages, then ask new questions. Ask questions the opposite of where you're stuck, right? Say, I can't do any of this. I live in a condo. How could I live on a piece of land, a quarter acre, 100 acres that I can plant on? How could I do that? 4 years ago, my friends, I lived in an HOA community. I was dead broke. And I had debt. And I let go of the fear, and the magic has been happening ever since. Let go of the fear. And if you haven't read Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, it's an oldie but goodie. Napoleon, after studying the most successful minds and manifestors and producers in history, he deducted, after a lifetime of study of these people, he deducted whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. So take a breath with me. What can my mind conceive and believe? Well, when you start by asking that question, normalcy bias will creep in. Your belief systems, your BS, your bullshit will creep in. And your programs, programmed by the media and by other people about how weak you are, they will creep in. Notice them. If you can laugh at them, please do. Take a breath. How can I get my own piece of land? Do I know anybody? Am I friends with anybody that has a piece of land? Maybe I could collaborate with them and I could help them grow food on their land. Maybe I could help them and then they would reciprocate and maybe I'd get a share of that. Or maybe I could create a design and a plan to get out of where I am over the next year or two. Maybe I could earn more money by sharing solutions and by helping other people be free and healthy. Right? Get in the business. And even that word business is cheap and weak compared to what we're actually doing. Get with the Bravehearts. Get with the solutions. Start to be the change to the best of your ability starting right now. And it starts with one breath. Breathe in the spirit and know that you are part of the divine. You're not an accident. You are part of the divine. Anything other than that, any BS belief system other than that is bullshit, is part of the program, part of the illusion, part of the scam that you've been led to believe by mind control. Take a deep breath and know that you are part of God. Anything other than that is arrogant. It's ego. Ego edging God out. Ego is the illusion that we are separate from God. It's the game we are playing. I think it's the Hindus who call it Leela, the divine game. This is the divine game, my friends. We are in it. And to win it, faith and courage is the armor of God. And what will we get when we win? What will the meek get? We will inherit the earth. And we will design, and we will install, and we will steward the Garden of Eden. That will literally be our prize. It's kind of exciting, isn't it? Sit with that empowerment, that inspiration, that excitement. Allow that to bathe you. Allow the spirit, the energy, the frequency, the feeling, right? Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Okay, if you're very mathematical and very science-oriented, great, do that. I've got another suggestion for you. If you want to be part of God's divine system, if you want to feel connected with God, then feel the frequency, the energy, the vibration. Breathe in spirit. Let spirit bathe you. And feel the vibration of your cells. Feel your toes and your hands and your stomach. Feel your third eye, your pineal gland opening up. Deep breath. At the highest levels of consciousness, awareness, we are one, my friends. We are all part of the divine, the omnipresence and omnipotence of that which I call God, because I grew up in Minnesota, and that's just the word I learned. That's the concept that I learned, to put a name to something that's infinite and cannot be named. Love, my friends, and have a great day.